adultery, abandonment, fear, and lost. Sound like you? Well, it is Melissa. It's her story today on Restoring Hope.
Restoring hope. Open my heart to sing, taking the darkness inside, revealing your light, restoring hope. Open my eyes to see the world through different eyes, revealing your light, restoring hope.
5 minutes after the hour on this, the 30th day of June in the Lord's year 2013. Welcome to this week's edition of Restoring Hope Live, a program that tells people's stories. Actually, we let them tell their story. Why? Because it's our belief that deep inside of your story is your DNA with God. And it's what makes your story, your spiritual awakening, your relationship with Him so powerful. But God can't do everything on His own, and He needs you to share that story because somebody else out there needs a nugget, just a nugget of it, not the whole thing, just something. So we pray before this show that our words will be God's words, and they will be sent to the ears of someone who needs that. Maybe it's you today. Maybe it's something you hear that you pass on to somebody else. But we thank you for listening. We're praying for you. I don't think it's any accident that somehow you tuned into this show at this moment, downloaded this podcast at this time, tuned your computer on the internet over to us somehow. I'm J. Michael McCoy. I'm your host. Bob Montserrat, the Cat in the Hat, is also with us. He watches our chat because on RestoringHopeLive.com, that's RestoringHopeLive.com, we have a live chat that you can participate in. Maybe you don't want to call in. Maybe you don't want your voice heard on the radio, but maybe you have a question. Maybe you have a concern or a comment. That's the way to give it to us. And Joe Mites is here from St. Gregory's, also just for the word. We're being produced today by, what's your name today? Fred? Howard? Eric?
Eric is just fine.
Is Eric just fine?
Yeah.
And Chris is producing the video side, and I tell you what, it's a feat and to have him here today because his daughter got married last night, and I think the last tweet or Facebook plant I got from you was like 3:42 in the morning. So congratulations to Chris and Maddie and Nick for a wonderful, wonderful wedding yesterday. It was super. All right, Melissa Dale is our guest. Melissa, where's home?
Here in Des Moines.
Okay, so you're born and raised here?
Yeah, I graduated from a small town called Van Meter.
Okay.
Just west of here.
And what were you like in high school?
I was pretty outgoing in high school. I was involved in sports, involved in, social studies, things like that at school, and pretty involved, but a little bit disjointed, I think.
What caused that disjointment?
Well, I was raised in my dad left when I was 4,
okay.
and that kind of started this abandonment thing in my heart,
sure.
kind of thing. But my siblings, they were 9 years older than me,
okay.
so they were out of the house by the time I was in high school. But my mom had a drinking problem,
okay.
a pretty big drinking problem. So I was trying to navigate through her alcoholism
and
while I was in high school.
I would imagine that in many times you were the support person, you were the caring person for your mother?
Yes, me and my sister was heavily involved in supporting us as well.
Was Dad out of your life for good?
I didn't get to meet Dad until I was in my late 30s.
Okay. And do you have a relationship with him now?
Unfortunately, that's a double-sided sword right there. I got to meet him, but soon after he passed away.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So that was, but
God did put you together.
God did, because He knew that there was something I was seeking, and one of the things I needed to resolve before my dad passed was that relationship with my father.
And I want to talk about that later, okay, when we get there. All right. So, you pardon my expression, but you became a meth head.
Yes, I did.
What drew you? Did you have anything before that? Did you drink a lot? Did your mother's alcoholism, cause you to be alcoholic? Did you smoke dope? Smoke cigarettes? What?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. There you go. Summed it right up. Well, in high school, I was doing what I thought most every kid does. You start out drinking a little bit, and you sneak around smoking cigarettes, and pretty soon you run around with people that are smoking pot, and you do that and all that, and then. Mom, she got sober, though, and praise God for that. But I didn't think I was ever going to become an addict or an alcoholic or anything,
Right.
And So, it was kind of like one thing led to another, with my story. I ended up marrying someone who liked to, smoke and drink. And yeah, we thought everybody did it. It was the thing to do in the 80s, we thought.
Yeah.
And, we dove into cocaine, and then that kind of became expensive. And
no kidding.
yeah, right. And then rolled into meth because it was more affordable, and that was a bad choice.
Now, I'm gonna take a rabbit trail for just a second. When did Mom get sober?
She got sober when she was 49 years old.
Well, okay.
And I was 15.
Oh.
I was 15 years old.
And did she remain sober to this day?
She remained sober. Unfortunately, again, once she got sober, she was addicted to cigarette smoking, and emphysema took her life at the age of 52 when I was 18.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, that's too bad.
So her death, and I rejoiced with her. I went through her treatment as her concerned person and everything.
Oh, good.
And we got to have some years of her being sober and some really great time together.
Do you think that's one of the things that drives your passion to help other people who are in the middle of hurts, habits, and hang-ups?
Absolutely. I want people to know, any person, regardless of whether they're the addict or the family member of an addict, that there's hope. There's always hope. And there's and that we don't have to stay stuck in the chaos and the drama.
Man, she's saying stuff that you always say to me.
Hey, man, I'm telling you, that's the spice of life right there.
Yeah.
As long as there's life, there's hope.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Melissa Dale is our guest. This is not significant to her story, but just so you know, Melissa is associated with and one of the directors of one of the largest Celebrate Recovery programs in the nation. So as you listen to her, imagine her standing before hundreds or dozens or thousands of other people who go through hurts, habits, and hangups, and imagine how many lives she's been able to change. So you get married. Any babies?
Nope.
Never had any kids?
Nope, because at that point I was I was pursuing career, and I excelled in my career world.
Okay.
That was going to fill me up, so I thought.
What was the career?
It was insurance, actually.
Okay.
I worked downtown Des Moines and pretty large insurance companies, and I thought that was going to make me whole,
Okay.
So I didn't have time for kids at that point. But then this drug abuse thing kind of got in my way of my career. And, one thing I knew I didn't want to do is to bring a child into a drug or alcohol dependent life.
Right.
And I just didn't feel like I could do that. So I didn't do that. And so I chose not to have kids. And by the time I got clean, there was not an option to have kids. So
Okay.
yeah. So
How long were you and your first husband together?
over 25 years.
Okay. Are you still together? I guess I should.
No, we're not.
No. Okay. When did you, in that 25-year period, when did you decide to get clean and sober?
Well, that's kind of funny because I didn't decide it.
Okay.
It seemed that the courts decided that.
Oh, okay.
I led myself into an area of such despair and being lost that I started selling drugs and actually became criminal. I got arrested and sent to jail. And it was at that time that I decided I was going to try a new path.
And how long were you in prison?
I was in county jail for 5 months.
5 months.
Yes.
Best 5 months of your life?
Absolutely. When I was out there using, I was so lost. I got to a point of being in such despair, self-hatred, shame. I mean, the pit. And I remember the night I got arrested, one of the times before I got arrested, actually looking to the sky and saying, God, I can't go on like this anymore. I'm just
Can't do
done. And about 30 seconds later, I got pulled over.
Okay, God's in the middle of this one. And if you thought that by what's already been said, wait till you hear what is yet to be said. Melissa Dale is our guest today on RestoringHopeLive.com. That's where you can find us. You can watch the program. Yes, you can watch it online at RestoringHopeLive.com, and also all of our previous shows that we've done are logged there, and you can podcast them. These programs are brought to you by St. Gregory's Retreat Centers. Separate facilities for men, separate facilities for women, and all they do is try to find the person that God created you to be. It's a Christ-centered recovery program. Look them up, call them if you need anything. We're coming back. I'm J. Michael McCoy with Joe Mintz from St. Gregory Retreat Center. Joe, when it comes to addictions, what kind of services does St. Gregory offer?
St. Gregory Retreat Center is a national leader in substance abuse treatment, and that our residential programs really first assure that someone is well enough to recover. What really sets us apart is that we're not going to enter into this idea of treatment from the standpoint that you just are a diseased person and needs to learn how to manage your life. We're really coming at this from the perspective of you are a created being and you're created with gifts and value and talent. There's a purpose for your life. There's a love in heaven with your name on it. And our job is to really help you to understand what's driven these things in your life so far. How do we give you the skills and teach you the techniques to turn around some of those negative thought processes, handle some of those negative emotional reactions to life, and really take control through an empowerment-based program to help you really start to maintain some real happiness and joy in your life. And that's something entirely different than anything I'm aware of in a recovery atmosphere. Everything I've really ever seen is really coming at this from the standpoint of trying to manage things for now, help you feel better for now. A lot of times you're given a pill for your addiction, or they're trading out a drug for another drug. We're really going to make sure that, look, the person that's walking through our doors has a lot of value. Not everything in their lives is bad. We need to understand what are those good things? How do we help them recognize those good things? And how do we help them gauge their society and culture and families and their own lives with those gifts and talents that they've been given in a way that's really going to provide them some true satisfaction in life? You don't have to deal with this alone. We can walk with you through this process.
All right, how do we get a hold of St. Gregory's?
You can reach us anytime at 888-778-5833, or you can find us on the web at stgregoryctr.com.
Hi, this is John Botter. Someone asked my advice with this question. My child's on drugs. How do I deal with well-meaning but intruding family members? Every family member is different, but the welfare and the health of the addict always have to be paramount. Now, this does not mean that other relationships are ignored. It just means that this addiction thing is strenuous, it's debilitating, and it's energy draining. It is tough on all of us. And so when we have a family member who's intrusive, we need to understand that our immediate response and responsibility is to protect the immediate family. We might have to say, I'm sorry, but we simply can't talk right now. I'm sorry, but your questions are intrusive. I'm sorry, but I need to help my child.
Find guidance through life's storms. Visit lighthousenetwork.org.
The Pocket Testament League presents Pocket Power. Read, carry, and share the gospel every day.
I introduced the Pocket Testament League to the ladies of our women's ministries and asked that they give 60 testaments away. I encouraged them to take them to work, to restaurants, to hair appointments, and we left that meeting with not one testament left.
This is Mike Brickley, president of the Pocket Testament League. League members have found that any place is a good place to share a pocket gospel with someone they meet. Join us and you'll always be ready. Is there anything more important?
One of the ladies works at a health unit and couldn't wait to leave one in the waiting area. I praise God for your league. I can't wait to share the ministry with our church, and we've already started handing out the Pocket Testaments to visitors.
What are you waiting for? Read, carry, and share the gospel every day. For more information, call 1-800-636-8785 or visit pocketpower.org. That's pocketpower.org.
Restoring hope, open my heart to sing, taking the darkness inside, revealing your light, restoring hope.
19 minutes after the hour on the 30th day of June in the Lord's year 2013. I'm J. Michael McCoy, and this is Restoring Hope Live, a show that people come in and tell their story, their connection, their DNA, their spiritual awakening with our Lord Jesus Christ. What their life was like before, what happened, and what their life was like then. Our guest is Melissa Dale. Her story is a true Christ-filled, centered story. So you are, how old were you when you got married?
18.
All right, and that marriage lasted how long?
Over 25 years.
Over 25 years. And when did things start to get really tough inside that marriage?
Probably at least 5 years into it for me, inside me,
All right.
because I was a really lost young lady.
Okay.
And, you know, I was seeking to fill myself. I was looking to get filled. I had such a gaping hole in my heart, and I had no idea about God, religion, anything like that. I really didn't know about that stuff. So I was just like, you know, doing the drug scene and the career scene, trying to fill up. I went into the alcohol, tried the gambling thing, and my husband did a lot of that with me.
Okay.
And,
you guys were partners in crime.
But, well, not so much crime, but we were partners in using.
Okay.
But when I was looking for him to fill me as well. And so what was happening was nothing in the world was filling me up because I had this bottomless pit going on. And eventually I thought, well, certainly it's not me, you know, it's this world, and it must be this guy. So I went looking for other guys because it must be that I have the wrong guy. So I find another guy, and he made me smile. And I had been in such a pit of despair. I thought that must be the guy. You know, he made me smile. That must be it. So I took off with him, and that's who my partner in crime became.
Okay.
And, you know, my addiction at that point was meth, and his addiction was money. And I started selling meth to satisfy his addiction for money, and bad choice.
Yeah.
One thing I didn't do well was be a criminal.
Yeah. Good.
And I got arrested for that.
I'm glad you weren't good at being a criminal.
Yeah, right.
So back up for just a second. What's life like on meth? You know what I mean?
It is, for me, it got to be a point of, you know, I don't remember the fun in it anymore. I don't remember that. All I remember is the desperation in it. Okay. The finding ways and means to get more. I mean, like if I got up in the morning and there was no possible way I was going to get meth, I wasn't going to get, period. If I needed to come up with a con job, a way to get money, that's what I was going to do to get meth. It became about, there was nothing else important in the world than getting high. And once you were high, it wasn't enough.
Could you maintain your job high?
No.
No.
So my careers went from really great jobs down to I couldn't perform menial labor.
Okay.
And I got to a point where my career became crime. Not, you know, I mean, as far as selling drugs.
So you were not employed.
No.
You were self-employed as a drug dealer.
Yes.
Did you lose your jobs because of using?
They never said it, but yes, because I couldn't perform right, and everybody knew I was high.
Okay.
Everybody knew it, so yeah.
All right, so talk about your short but unfortunate pinnacle criminal past.
Yeah, so it was pretty short-lived as far as you know. It took me immediately to jail, and but I got out. And you would think that would be enough because I was looking at doing some serious federal time, serious amounts of time.
You did 5 months in the county.
I did, but that was 4 years later. God intervened in my life so many times. It's just how God goes. But when I first got arrested, I was on probation, and that you would think would be enough to straighten you up. But when you're a meth addict, and the people that you love now are going to prison for a very long time, and you get released on probation, the only thing you know how to do is get high some more.
All right.
And I didn't want to live. So I was trying to use as much as I could because I didn't care anymore to live. And I went on like that for 4 years. And one night, in going to get more drugs, that's when I just said, God, I'm so tired of this. I can't do this anymore. And I got pulled over and arrested on site for driving without a license and having drugs on me.
Why didn't you have a license?
Because I was on probation.
Okay.
And I wasn't allowed to have one yet. So I went to jail, and I was going to do 12 years state time at that point. And I got put in county jail, but they were looking to see if I could do maybe in jail recovery, in jail treatment. And it took me 2 weeks of withdrawal in jail, which wasn't good. That was horrible. To actually get on my knees in my jail cell and ask God to help my life.
Yeah, because they don't really detox you.
No. They asked me, they said, are you suicidal? And I said, not today. And they said, are you going to be? And I said, I don't know because I don't remember what it's like to be clean.
Yeah.
So they put me in suicide watch for 3 days.
Joe, tell me why it's important that if someone makes the decision or is forced into recovery, why that detox period is so important, because you guys at St. Gregory's, you know how to do that.
Yeah, and it depends a little bit on what we're talking about. There's a big difference between a medical withdrawal and that medical stabilization period. Now, methamphetamine, cocaine, we're really talking about more of a stabilization period. You're not going to need that medical withdrawal. You're not going to have the seizure risk and things like that you will with really heavy alcohol or opiates or benzodiazepines. The big thing is it's that period of restoration that's so important when you're talking about those stimulants, because your body is so run down. No sleep, no nutrition, nothing that it needs, and yet you're running it harder than you normally would, even if you were a very healthy person and going to the gym. And it really takes that period. And the biggest issue, especially with methamphetamine, it's that period where all of a sudden, all of those emotions that you've been high and running away from for as long as you've been using, now all of a sudden, there they are. And that's really when, exactly right, that's when suicide risk is a big issue. That's when somebody's sit there left thinking about, what am I going to do now? Because I don't know how to function without this. And it's terrifying.
Yeah, but at St. Gregory's, you guys have can I call it a medical procedure or a pharmaceutical?
It's not a procedure, nor is it pharmaceutical. It's really all about that restoration. So when there is a medical need to withdraw, yes, we engage in that. And that is done with medications just to avoid that seizure risk and those things. But the really important aspect of that is the neurochemical therapy, really the nutrient infusion, and helping someone to rise to meet the occasion physically. It's really helping to restore their body to where they're able to get to that point where they can now confront the mental and emotional issues of life. But that period of restoration physically is extremely important.
So if you could have had somebody who knew what they were talking about, like St. Gregory's, to bring you down, that probably would have been a lot better, because you had a tough time in jail.
Probably would have been better, but I don't know that I would have gone for it. I mean, for me, I knew I was going to have to get locked up. I was going to have to be locked up because I wasn't going to stop using. I just wasn't going to do it. Okay. I didn't care to. I didn't want to feel those feelings that he was talking about. I didn't want to do that, but I did. I told God, I said, I don't want to live like this anymore.
Right.
And he said, okay.
So you never served 12 years.
I did not. I was in my jail cell after about 2 weeks. I just kind of got on my knees in my jail cell and I asked God to just take my life. I surrendered my life to Christ right in my jail cell. And the very next day I got my interview as to whether I was going to do prison or this treatment. And this gentleman, I got to tell this quick little story. The gentleman that interviewed me, he was asking me, I don't even know what he asked me, but he had a cross on that was the exact same cross that my mother had gotten as a little girl in catechism. I mean, it was identical. And I was staring at it, I was just staring at that cross. And it was like, all of a sudden, I realized I wasn't alone anymore. And I, in fact, was exactly where I needed to be. See, the whole time, those first 2 weeks, I was like, I don't belong here. I'm not one of these people. I'm not like this. Mm-hmm. And at that moment, after I surrendered my life to Christ and I saw that cross, I knew that I was exactly where I needed to be. I was going to be okay. And I got the word the next day.
The peace of all understanding.
Yes. I was like, oh, I get it. It's going to be all right. So the next thing that I know is that I'm going into the in-jail treatment program, and it was a 4-month program. I was about a month into jail and then 4 months in treatment. And I just decided I was going to make the most of my new life. This was going to be a new beginning for me.
So when you were in jail, were you studying the Bible?
I did. I took, for the first time, I grabbed a Bible. I started reading the Bible. We took, they had Bible study groups. I started attending 12-step meetings, which I'd never done before. And, I was just taken over by the Spirit at that point. I found some joy and things. And I started doing drawings I found out I could draw while I was in jail. A lot of people figure that out when they're in jail. And I started drawing my character defects. I started drawing the demons in my head, the things that were holding me down, the pity and shame and all of that.
Melissa Dale is our guest. We're about to find out what her life is like now and how God is using her life in a ministry that is helping people coast to coast and side by side. This is RestoringHopeLive.com. Bob Montserrat watching the chat. Joe Mines from St. Gregory's. I'm J. Michael McCoy. Thanks for listening. If I haven't told you lately, thanks. I love my job. Couldn't do it without you. Right here on Restoring Hope.
restoring hope.
Here's Dan Celia with today's Stewardship Moment.
In Isaiah 55, God makes it clear that His word does not go forth and come back void or empty. He says this, "But I shall accomplish that which I purpose. I shall succeed in the things for which I sent it." Listen, I don't know about you, but I have never found a place in all of Scripture that when God spoke, nothing happened. Listen, whenever Jesus spoke, it came to pass. In my life, whether it was destruction, healing, or love, something happened when God spoke. When you read the Bible or pray, listen to what God has to say about His will for your life.
You've just heard a Stewardship Moment with Dan Celia of Financial Issues Ministry, helping you plan, give, and invest wisely. For more information, log on to financialissues.org. That's financialissues.org.
Every day I wake up at 5 to give Dad his medicine. Every day I wake up at 5 to give Dad his medicine. At 6 I make his breakfast. Every day I wake up at 5 to give Dad his medicine. At 6 I make his breakfast. At 7 I shower. Every day I wake up.
For those caring for a loved one, we hear you. That's why AARP created a community to help us better care for ourselves and the ones we love. Visit aarp.org/caregiving. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
This moment of uncontrollable laughter was made possible by a 32-year-old man with little to no coordination attempting to execute a simple cartwheel. His name is Sergeant Warner, but young James, our laughing friend here, simply calls him Dad. The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today. Call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
The Pocket Testament League presents Pocket Power. Read, carry, and share the gospel every day. If you've ever failed to share your faith because you just didn't know what words to use, then carry the word with you.
I include these Pocket Testaments in our visitor folders at church, or I give them out on home visitations, or I leave them in public places such as gas stations, malls, stores, rest areas.
Hello, this is Mike Brickley, president of the Pocket Testament League. Reading the Bible every day is so easy when you always have it with you. You won't even need a backpack. You can carry one right in your pocket. What are you waiting for?
I witness to people with tracts, but also leave them with the Word of God for them to read for themselves. I'm going to let my people at Fellowship know about the Pocket Power Ministry. Thank you for your work in God's kingdom.
What are you waiting for? Read, carry, and share the gospel every day. For more information, call 1-800-636-8785 or visit pocketpower.org. That's pocketpower.org.
I'm in almost every school bus and classroom. I go to school with your children. We say the Pledge of Allegiance together. You see me around the neighborhood and you tell me that I'm a pretty good kid. Well, I'm one out of every 5 children in America, and I'm struggling with hunger. This problem is closer than you think. My teacher tells me we can grow up to be whatever we want. I want to grow up to be someone who doesn't go to bed hungry. There's enough food in this country to feed everybody. Please visit feedingamerica.org today and find your local food bank for ways to help. Every dollar you donate helps provide 8 meals for kids like me, quietly struggling with hunger. Together, we are Feeding America, brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
Restoring hope, open my heart to sing, taking the darkness inside, revealing your light, restoring hope.
Abandonment, meth, lost, adultery, found. That's where we're at with Melissa Dale's story here today on RestoringHopeLive.com. So now it's April 2004. You're incarcerated and you ask Jesus to come into your life. You feel something different, and then the next day you see a cross that matched a cross that your mother had, and you knew for the first time in your life that Jesus was within you, that you were no longer alone.
Correct. And it was an amazing feeling.
Yeah, I know it.
I changed. You can ask my sister. She'll tell you that the calls that I was making home that day, the day before, were, I don't belong here, get me out of here, crying and screaming. And it turned out that when that happened, my calls changed and my whole attitude changed.
Yeah. So you get out of your 4-month stint of rehabilitation in jail recovery program. And what do you do with your life then? You're still married.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
The gentleman that you had been running around with and with the drugs, how did you get rid of him, or was that an easy task?
Well, it wasn't easy because it broke my heart, but unfortunately, he's still serving time and will be until 2023 for this.
For the same thing?
For this crime, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
God really did take care of you.
Yeah. The man, it was his third offense, and he went federal, and he's still doing time.
Do you stay in touch with him?
I do write him.
Good.
Yeah. The Bible says to not forget those who are in prison. So.
Sure. All right. So what's your life like now? It's April, May, June. It's August. Well, Jiminy Christmas. It's 10 years later, right?
Yes.
No,
9.
13.
9
years.
Yep.
Thanks for doing the math there. Appreciate it.
You bet.
9 years later. So in those first few months out of jail and with Jesus in your heart, tell me how life changed.
Well, it was kind of crazy because when I got out of jail and I had this renewing in me and I was just on fire for life and the whole world was going to change, I thought. And I got out and soon found out that the only thing that changed was me. And that in order for me to continue to change, there were some things I was going to require. And one of them was going to be, first of all, church. And God bless, my sister took me out to the church that I'm now at and kind of, went to church with me and found me a really good church home that was loving and accepting and kind. The next thing I found out that I was going to need is to not be around dope. Every person and thing in my life had dope in it. Everybody I knew. So everything was going to have to change.
Yeah.
And that was a struggle. But so although I thought the whole world was going to change, I found out the whole world was going to change. But that was only because I was going to have to do some footwork.
Yeah. Now, when did you, and maybe you never did, but for me, and I can only speak for myself, there was a point in which I crossed some line that I was more about Jesus than I was about me, and me equaled the accuser. Okay? Because I had Jesus on my lips, and I had Jesus in my hand from let's say 9:15 to 11, on Sunday mornings. But the rest of the time, I did what I wanted to do because it was good for me. And you get in my way, you're going to be in trouble. And at some point, after the Lord came and found me, there was a point in which I began to recognize it wasn't a good feeling. That I began to recognize when the accuser was grabbing a little bit more of the tug of rope than I wanted him to. Did you feel that when you were trying to get rid of the friends and the playmates and the playgrounds?
Yeah, and I think that, I desperately, well, first of all, I didn't want to do prison time, and I desperately wanted to stay clean, but I knew that, one of the things that I got to enjoy when I very first got out and got around was I went to a support group that was studying a book called The Purpose-Driven Life.
Sure.
And, because my dad left when I was little and I was kind of an afterthought, I was kind of like an oops, I thought, an accident in my, that I opened up that book and it said I wasn't an accident, that I was here for a purpose and it was for God's purpose. And it just clicked for me. And so started looking around and thinking, I can't serve a purpose for God if I have all of these other things going on around me. I'm going to go back if I don't go forward. And so I got involved in church and everything, and I got involved in recovery. And just, for a minute it was self-serving because I had to do the footwork to save myself because I was going to be falling backwards if I didn't do what was required to stay clean.
You were living at home, in your home?
I was.
And
I did.
You were still married?
Yes.
And what was your husband still using? And
yes. And so that was really difficult for me. As time went on, the marriage had pretty much fallen apart. I believe that he still loves me in some respect. 25 years, you have to, but we'd grown apart. And someone entered into his life, and he decided he would spend time with that person versus me, which was kind of one of those minutes in my recovery where I thought, what? That was one of those challenging moments in recovery that certainly could have sent me back over the edge. But,
Absolutely.
But because of my new friends in recovery, because of people at church who prayed for me, because of the path I was walking on, I never felt like I couldn't make it. I never felt like I had to have him to make me whole. I've always known now that my wholeness and my well-being comes from God and the plan he has for my life.
Melissa, do you ever, in the darkness, when nobody else is around and you're talking with God, do you ever say, hey, why'd you take so long?
No.
Why didn't you feel this when I was 14, or 20 when my mom died, or 4 when my dad left? Why did you take so long to come to me?
Well, see, here's the fun part, is in my journey and where I'm at now and where I've been, is I can look back and he was there the whole time. So I've never asked him, where have you been? I've always said, thank you for being there. For example, my dad was an alcoholic. I'm pretty certain that as a young girl, if my dad would have been in my life, I couldn't have handled 2 alcoholic parents. Okay. I thank God that he was removed from me because I was struggling enough. I thank God that he introduced me again to him and got that restored. I never once got mad that Dad died 2 years later. I always just rejoiced that he gave me those minutes.
Tell me what that reconciliation and what happened there. What gift did God give you by that meeting with your father?
Well, the question in my mind was always, because through my mom's recovery, she had to tell her life story, and part of her honesty part was to tell me that he may not have been my biological dad. So there was a minute where I thought that I justified his leaving me because maybe I wasn't his kid. Mm-hmm. But I think God knew different and gave us an opportunity to meet. God softened my heart because I swore I was never going to be on this man's deathbed, and God softened my heart to open the door a little bit. And what happened was he and I got to spend a little bit of time together and reconcile out the fact that he was told I probably wasn't his kid. I was told I was probably not his kid. We kind of left that up in the air, and we spent time and determined that probably I was his kid. There was just too much similar between us that seemed like I probably was. And
why didn't you do a DNA check?
It doesn't matter.
Okay.
It really didn't matter.
When is this, by the way? You got out of jail in 2004.
This was before I got clean.
Oh, okay.
This was in 97.
Okay.
From 97 to 99, and he passed in 99.
Okay.
And so, as I swore to God, I'll never sit on this man's deathbed. I don't care if he's dying. God said, got another plan.
Yeah.
And I did. I did sit on his deathbed.
And what did that do for you? What through the Holy Spirit, what gift did that give to you?
I think that in all of the running around and chasing of men, because I was trying to prove some sort of worth that I was worthy of man's love, I think that having that relationship restored even briefly helped me to bring together the pieces of I didn't have to prove myself to my father anymore. I didn't have to, it brought in a piece that I had lost, and it brought it to close. So the gift was God is bigger, and I am loved, and the lies in my head were just that. They were lies.
Yeah.
Which said that I wasn't worthy, and I wasn't his daughter, and my father didn't care, and they were lies.
Yeah. Did you, for me, those lies from the committee in my head, I thought it was God talking to me. And I later discovered through some incredible prayer and meditation with an amazing man that I had actually fallen for the original lie, and the accuser took the place of God's voice. Yeah. And it was the accuser all along that was telling me that I was not worthy and that I was not good enough and that I, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, and I believe that those voices were from, all of the, I call them my demons, the little ankle biters, I call them, as they want to attack me. I kick them away now. But, I never thought it was God telling me that.
You thought it was who?
I just thought it was me. It was just me in my head.
All right. We're coming back for our last segment with Melissa to find out her incredible ministry. Joe Meintz from St. Gregory's is in the house. Bob Montserrat, the Cat in the Hat. And we appreciate you listening to this ministry right here live on RestoringHopeLive.com. We'll be back. Michael McCoy with Joe Mines from St. Gregory Retreat Center. Joe, when it comes to addictions, what kind of services does St. Gregory offer?
St. Gregory Retreat Center is a national leader in substance abuse treatment, and that our residential programs really first assure that someone is well enough to recover. What really sets us apart is that we're not going to enter into this idea of treatment from the standpoint that you just are a diseased person and needs to learn how to manage your life. We're really coming at this from the perspective of you are a created being, and you're created with gifts and value and talent. There's a purpose for your life. There's a love in heaven with your name on it. And our job is to really help you to understand what's driven these things in your life so far. How do we give you the skills and teach you the techniques to turn around some of those negative thought processes, handle some of those negative emotional reactions to life, and really take control through an empowerment-based program to help you really start to maintain some real happiness and joy in your life. And that's something entirely different than anything I'm aware of in a recovery atmosphere. Everything I've really ever seen is really coming at this from the standpoint of trying to manage things for now, help you feel better for now. A lot of times you're given a pill for your addiction, or they're trading out a drug for another drug. We're really going to make sure that, look, the person that's walking through our doors has a lot of value. Not everything in their lives is bad. We need to understand what are those good things? How do we help them recognize those good things? And how do we help them gauge their society and culture and families and their own lives with those gifts and talents that they've been given in a way that's really going to provide them some true satisfaction in life? You don't have to deal with this alone. We can walk with you through this process.
All right, how do we get a hold of St. Gregory's?
You can reach us anytime at 888-778-5833, or you can find us on the web at stgregoryctr.com.
Here's Dan Celia with today's Stewardship Moment.
I'm always amazed at how quickly we get off track when it comes to our giving. I guess I've been guilty of that myself from time to time. But Proverbs 4:23 says this: keep your heart with all diligence, for out of it springs the issues of life. Now, the way I understand that is the issues of life that the writer is talking about is pretty much everything that we do. See, if we get off track with our stewardship, with our giving or tithing, it's because of what springs out of our hearts.
You've just heard a Stewardship Moment with Dan Celia of Financial Issues Ministry, helping you plan, give, and invest wisely. For more information, log on to financialissues.org. That's financialissues.org.
Hi, this is John Vodder. A parent said to me, "My child is on drugs. Is it all right to separate myself from negative people in my family?" Well, my answer was very direct. Yes, that is all right. I'm a firm believer that both the addict in recovery and his or her parents must separate themselves from anyone who cannot be positive, who cannot be encouraging, who cannot be faith-building. When drugs invaded our family, I made this decision. Some wanted to know every sort of detail, and this seems to be not their business. It seemed to be that they simply wanted to be a peeping Tom into our family. The Apostle Paul said we should focus on that which is honorable, pure, lovely, and commendable. So I say to parents, if you need to step away from certain friends,
find guidance through life's storms. Visit lighthousenetwork.org.
Restoring hope, open my heart to sing, taking the darkness inside, revealing your light, restoring hope.
Thank you, Matt Baird from the band Spoken, who wrote and recorded our theme song right there, Restoring Hope Live. Thanks to our underwriter, St. Gregory's. Joe Mines, you're are you the admissions director?
Admissions and marketing, yeah.
Yeah, and we appreciate having a Christ-based treatment center. And you may be listening to this right now and go, well, I don't know anybody that needs St. Gregory's help. That's okay. That's okay, because you will. Unfortunately, someday you will. And so do me a favor and just write it down someplace. Put it on a Rolodex. Put it in your phone. Put it on the back of a business card. Put it on a Post-it note that just put God works through St. Gregory's Retreat Center. Because someday somebody's going to call you and say, well, my son or my daughter or my grandson or my neighbor or my pastor is having a problem with addictions, and I don't know who to turn to. It's so embarrassing. I don't know who to turn to. Well, turn to St. Gregory's. Anywhere in the world, they have separate men's and female facilities, so you are safe there. And just know that it is Christ-centered. And I love what you always say. You help people find
who God had purposed them to be.
Yeah, in the beginning. And that's kind of your story, right?
Yes.
You as you began to get sober and get away from meth and search the Lord and change your habits and your playmates and all that, you found the person that God had intended you to be all along.
All along, yes, absolutely. You know, I believe that everything that I've ever been through, there's a purpose for that. I don't think that God made that happen. I think that he took all of my bad habits, all of my bad choices, and turned them into his good.
Okay, I want to talk about that for just a second. So, because I've often wondered this: did God bring me into alcoholism, or did I bring myself into alcoholism and God brought me out and taught me something about it?
Yeah, I totally. My belief is that he was able to turn all of my choices, all of my decisions into something that he could use for his good. And therefore, there's my purpose. Now, I don't believe I was brought into this world to grow up being an addict. I don't believe that I was brought into this world to be a criminal. I believe that I was brought in this world to serve God. And Amen. Even all of the choices that I've ever made, all of the things I've ever done, he was able to bring me out of where I was at and still use all of it for his good. And it just, it humbles me to my knees.
Yeah, it's amazing. Mm-hmm. And that's what you guys work with people at St. Gregory's about.
Absolutely. That's the whole point. He's going to use you one way or the other. And you can either be an example for, the pain and suffering in life, and he'll use that. But that's your choice. I mean, that's something that you're doing outside of his will. Or you can join him and truly fulfill that glorious path. I mean, it's an entirely different outlook on life.
Yes.
I found it interesting in my road that I thought that the church people the religious people, the Jesus freaks, would be the most judgmental. Mm-hmm. And what I found was it was the opposite. It's when Jesus found me and the hound of heaven bit me on the backside, and that was it. If my story is I didn't have a choice. I just didn't have a choice. I never dropped to my knees and said, I surrender. He came up and said, time to surrender. You okay now? Can we go on with my plan now? But that's when I found the outside world, the secular world, to be the real haters, to be the real judgmental people. When I started telling people, guess what? I found Jesus. That's when you start getting grief.
Mm-hmm. And that's the truth. A lot of people gravitated away because I had found this new joy and this new life, and she's one of those people.
Yeah,
I'm one of those Jesus people.
Have you ever been? Has God ever used those past relationships to help bring somebody else to recovery, somebody else to the Lord in that circle of your drug-using criminal friends?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Now, there have been some people that I was with that have come through the doors of the recovery program I'm involved in at Celebrate Recovery. But I think one of the biggest things was the man that went to prison, his daughter.
Okay.
I was able to walk with her through some recovery of her own.
Yeah.
And that was a big deal for me. That was like I couldn't help him, but maybe I could shine some light onto this young lady who maybe doesn't have to go through what I did.
Wow.
Yeah, it was an amazing moment.
Do you think, and there's no real answer, maybe, Bob, you're the biblical expert here, maybe there is an answer, but I often wonder if we're here for one single thing. And when that one single thing has been accomplished, that's when God takes us home. And it might be on my deathbed and my heathenistic friend comes and finds Christ through my lifelong, unbelievable relationship with him, and that was my only purpose? Or do you think our purpose, and Joe, you chime in on this, is God's purpose for us just like ping pong balls out of an airplane? There's so many and they bounce everywhere.
You know, for as many theological questions I have about it, one of my favorite books ever is The Shack.
Yeah, me too.
I love that book.
Yeah.
But there's a point in it when they start speaking a little bit on, now if you can have free will, and just because God knows what you're going to do and can work through you and your environment to bring about a relationship with him, add just one more person, and the complexities of what that looks like is magnified to an infinite degree. And I guess, and I think about this a lot too, and the only thing that I can come to is, if it is for one thing, I guess I'll find out. But frankly, I think that it's much more important that we have this experience to really grow in a relationship with him, so we can have this chance to learn who he is and develop that loving relationship with him. Without that, it's not really love. You just kind of end up in heaven. Without being here getting to go through life to really learn what that relationship looks like, I think that's essential to the journey.
Bob, is that a ditto?
Sure, you can add more, but I can identify with what Joe is saying.
And Melissa, same way. I mean, there are many things that God has put you on this earth to do.
Yeah.
Or was it because of this daughter? Have you fulfilled the one thing God needed you to do, and everything after this is extra credit?
I don't think so. I think for me, I don't think that I have just one purpose. I think he's got multiple purposes for my life, and I you know, the program of recovery that I'm involved in, you know, it talks about giving my will and my life to God on a daily basis and just letting him guide that, you know, and so I am not here to question what God wants me to do next. I think he will use my every breath I have to his good. And from what I've read in the Bible and everything that I believe, and some of my favorite verses talks about my purpose here now is to walk through all of the trials and tribulations that I've got in my life, whatever they are, and I have them. It's not like life is perfect. There's stuff. And yet to come out and be a witness for God. It's pretty summed up in Isaiah that we are called to be his witnesses, and that's what we're here for. So I think that every moment of my life, everything that I've got can be used for his benefit, and everything that I have now, I want to point it back to Jesus Christ.
I always like to take Isaiah and those teachings and then combine them with Matthew 28.
Mm-hmm.
So we are here to reflect God and be his witness. Mm-hmm. And in order to do that, we must serve the Great Commission, and that is to make disciples of all men.
Yes, absolutely. And you know, that's a lot of what Celebrate Recovery is all about. You know, we talked about that just a little bit, but that's part of what this is about. It's a discipleship factory, we call it. You know, people come walking in broken, thinking they don't matter, they can't do this on their own, and they walk out sometime later after having worked the program and become disciples.
And one more thing, as we're running out of time, but you found your first big book.
Yes.
In a dumpster diving for food.
Yes, I was dumpster diving for anything that was cash-wise.
Wow.
And found the big book, and it was a 14th edition, pristine condition, and I knew somebody was talking to me.
She's got it today. Hey, thanks for listening today. Tonight, before you lay your head on the pillow, do one thing. Just pray, please. Pray for you. Pray for your enemies. And thank Jesus for being in your life.